What is up? My name is Josh West with Cellar Sound. Today I have something a little bit different for you. As you can see, we're in Pro Tools today. I'm going to take you through a full-on mix and master of what I did with this live music video recording. We're in Pro Tools, and that is mainly what I work in. I love Pro Tools. All the tutorials that I've done so far have been in GarageBand, and I started off in GarageBand and then moved to Logic and then went to Pro Tools. And I've been using Pro Tools for about 10 years now, and everything that I'm going to show you, almost all of it can be done completely in GarageBand. That's why I love GarageBand so much, because it's so powerful, and I don't think people realize how powerful it is. So if you're a GarageBand user, even a Logic user, any DAW, really, this mix behind the mix is going to be very beneficial to you because you can replicate all of this stuff. So before I get into that, as always, please go grab my vocal presets bundle. If you're a little bit confused on how to EQ vocals, compress vocals, do saturation on vocals, this preset bundle is perfect for you. And it even comes with a free training video that shows you how to put all these presets into your computer and how to manipulate them for any vocal that you're using. It's a very powerful tool, and definitely go grab that at www.cellarsound.co/free presets, or just click the link in the description. All right, so let's jump right into this behind the mix. I am so excited. Okay, so here is my entire session. I'm just going to walk you through what we have here and what we recorded. We have strings here. This is a full string section that we close mic'd with DPA mics. The music video we shot was in this really cool cabin with this loft, and it was really high ceilings, and the strings were kind of very separated. So we wanted to close mic them instead of doing an area mic, mainly just to really get the notes, just because they were so far apart, and it ended up working really, really well. Then we have an electric piano here. We have a couple lead vocals. And then we have choir, a lot of choir here. These guys were actually up in this loft, kind of behind everybody. It was really, really cool. And then we have tracks. So these are the tracks that they actually gave me after we did the recording. And yeah, these are on the bottom. So before we jump straight into this, let's just listen to it a little bit and just see where it's at. I have all my plugins and reverb and everything disengaged, and I'm gonna basically show you before and after as we build this entire mix. All right, cool. So you can tell, big sound, a lot of choir, a lot of vocals, very powerful song, and it actually sounds really good. This is just straight off the recording. Of course, I've edited everything in this entire timeline, but the balance of everything, besides the vocals need to be a little louder, is really nice, and the tone's all really nice. So all we're really trying to do is just take this live recording and really bring it up a level and basically just exaggerate all the great things that were recorded on this song. So let's go through these. Strings. So I'm going to work down this session exactly how I mixed it. And just one little thing is this project was extremely rushed. So we filmed it one day, and basically it had to be like my full mix and master and everything had to be in the next day. I think it was by like 6 p.m. or something like that. It was crazy. So I basically had, I think it was like 6 or 7-ish, 8-ish hours to do this entire mix, and that included editing, tuning, everything. So a lot of the decisions I made were, of course, to be quick, but trying to go off feel for everything. Just really trying to feel the track, make those decisions, and go with it. And that's what led me to this mix. So let's start with these strings. These strings just sounded really good. They were really good players. And let's just listen to this intro that they have. All right, cool. So they sound really good on their own. I have some panning going on. Definitely listen with headphones if you have them, or a good system before we get into this. But what I wanted to do with these strings, a lot of times what I do is I do all the EQing on an aux here. So I have all of my strings going out an aux, and they're coming into this string aux right here. But what I wanted to do is sort of balance out the frequencies a little bit, just because they were so close mic'd that there was just some frequencies that weren't really working, and I really wanted to get a nice clean balance of each string instrument, so that when it went into that aux, I could really manipulate it for the final mix. So let's look at the EQ here. So this first string we got here, let's turn this off. Okay. I have my trusty FabFilter Pro Q. This thing is just amazing. And all I'm doing here is just taking a little bit of 1.2K out. I'll let you hear a little before and after. This is before. Cool, so I kind of wanted to get just a little bit of that low end out just from the room. There's some kind of room noise at 55 hertz, and then just take a little bit of the bite out of it, the harshness. Perfect, so that kind of rounded out the sound, and it gives me something that I can work with. So let's move down the line on this guy. Let's hear what this guy sounds like without the EQ. Oh. All right, so same thing. I got some low end out, a little bit out of 450 hertz, and then 2.5K, just barely, minus 1.87 dB. These are just tiny little changes just to get the sound to be a little bit more clean and round. Let's hear it with this EQ in. Perfect. Sounds a lot more just kind of natural. Let's go down to this guy, see what we got going on. So same thing, I'm just taking the low end out of all these strings, the 55 hertz and below. I like a lot of this 100 hertz and 300 hertz in the strings. That's the body, so I don't want to cut too much out of it. So it's kind of a balance. And then kind of same thing here, I'm taking a little bit of 2.5K out and 500 hertz on this guy. Let's hear it before. Cool, let's turn it on. Awesome, nice and warm. So then I have this next guy, which I made the decision to actually turn this one off for some reason. I turned him down. He may not have been playing super well with the other strings, so I just kind of made that decision. I had so many strings that in that moment I was like, okay, this guy just needs to be off. And sometimes you have to make that decision. It's kind of a hard decision to make, dependent on what you're working with, but I just had to for that one. So same thing again. We got 55 hertz down, 400, a little 1.8K on this guy. Let's hear him. All right, let's turn it on. Perfect. That's really sounding really, really good. Okay, so the next guy, this one is a really interesting one because something happened with the mic position or whatever with this take, and I really wanted to use this take because the musician played it so well, but we didn't get a great capture here, as you can kind of tell. So let's listen without this EQ. So it's super thin. I don't have any body, so I went really drastic trying to take a lot of that just thin harshness out and adding as much low information as I could. Let's hear with the EQ in. So a lot better, still not perfect, but it works with the blend with everybody else. All right, so the next guy. So this one, I think, is the bass. So this bass sounded really good. The player was very, very good. I just wanted a little bit of high end on him to kind of match with the other strings, and there was a couple notes that were really sticking out on that microphone, so I just kind of cut those. And then we got our cello, which this guy's still frozen here. Let's unfreeze you. So this one, oh, actually, I didn't use any EQ at all on this cello. Looks like I planned to, and then, yeah. And then that one was really good. All right, so then this last cello, this guy was the same thing. I really didn't get a great performance out of this cellist on this take, and I just made the decision to turn him down. And this cello is so good and big and round that it really held ground with all the rest of the strings. So let's listen to all the strings on this intro. Let's do without all these plugins in, and then we'll turn them all back on so you can hear the difference. All right, let's turn them all back on. Cool, so it's a subtle difference, but the blend immediately got better. Some of those like weird notes aren't sticking out, and they're really working well together. And a lot of that EQ too was done with everything else in mind, with the whole string section in mind. So I would obviously solo one of the, let's just say the cello, and I'd listen and kind of make my adjustments and then play it with the whole rest of the strings and just make sure that I'm not way off or I'm not losing some information that that's really good there. Okay, so then all these guys are going through the string aux. Let's pull up my trusty SSL E channel by Waves. I am obsessed with this plugin. If I had to pick one plugin of all time that's my favorite, it is this SSL E channel. I use it all the time. You'll see it throughout this entire behind the mix, but it's just really, really good. So all I'm doing here is overall, I'm taking out a little bit of low end, just to 19 hertz here. I'm boosting a bit of this 8K. Don't have the bell on, so it's a shelf. So it's 8K and above, and it's just doing this really nice, flavorful boost that just adds so much. And then I have 100 hertz here, boosted a little bit, just getting a little bit more of that warmth out of the entire string section. And then it looks like that's it. I might have a little bit of compression here, but let's hear a before and after. Let's just play. Okay, I'm gonna turn the plugin on. So that is the biggest difference we've heard so far. This high end especially just really brought the string, the bow on the string, that bow just grazing across the string. It really brought it out and made it really nice and present. And that little bit of compression, there's barely any on here. We're compressing 3 to 1 and at the top end getting minus 3 dB. Of gain reduction there, and it just kind of balances the whole string section out. It sounds really good. Okay, and then we have Neutron. Again, love this plugin, Neutron Advanced here by Isotope. Such a good plugin. So I'm using this in two ways. I have my EQ here, and this is just an overall EQ for the whole strings. I noticed that they were just a little bit harsh when they were really digging in, so I just cut just a little bit. This is minus 3 dB of 3.5K, and then I have this exciter, which I love a lot. So I wanted just a little bit more of that nice high end, kind of the bow on the string. So I'm adding some saturation in this high end. So this is at about 5.3K and above. I'm driving it pretty hard with a little mix of warm and retro, and then I'm blending that saturated signal with a dry signal at 50%. So let's just listen to it with this on because it sounds really good. So it made a big difference, and it might sound like there's a little bit too much edge and a little bit too much high end, but with the entire mix, once all the instruments are in, that you want that for sure. So it really pokes out. And then the last thing on the strings, we have a reverb. This is one of my favorite verbs, Abbey Road Chambers by Waves. This is one of my presets. Acoustic Dreams is a really great preset if you're looking for presets on this reverb. And then I kind of modified it, and I just saved it as Acoustic Dreams. But I modified it, and it just sounds really good. So let's hear it with the reverb in. So it's doing this kind of sort of left-right echoey in this really nice room. It's this tile room, but what's interesting is it actually matched the room we were recording in. It was wood, but just the warmth, and that's what this plugin gave me. I'm cutting a lot of the low end at about 150 and some of this high end. I didn't want a lot of the high end in this particular reverb, and so it's a huge difference. So I'm gonna mute it so we can hear it, and then I'll unmute it and you can hear that difference. Okay, and then on. Beautiful. I love the sound of this reverb. It's just so good. And the only other thing on these strings is you can see here on the aux, I'm doing a lot of automation. So this intro, obviously, they're louder. Let's make this a little bigger so you can see it. Cool. This intro, they're a lot louder. They come down, and I have a couple moves that I did manually, just with my cursor, just wrote automation for certain little parts to really come out and move. And how I did this was it looks like I started here and I pushed play and I started to make these moves in between the vocals, and I tried to make the strings breathe a little bit more because they were doing that naturally, but you can really take advantage of that and exaggerate it a little bit to be really cool. And you can see a lot of those moves here. So I'm kind of going up and down and then getting bigger and then kind of tailing off sort of at the end. And these moves were a lot based off the vocal and, of course, the musical content. But that is the strings. All right, that is part one of this Behind the Mix series. Talked a lot about strings. I hope you got some benefit out of that. Next week, we will do part two, which will go into keys and vocals. I think you're really going to like part two. So definitely subscribe so that you will get notifications. Click that little bell, and you can watch the rest of this Behind the Mix series. If you haven't yet, please go download my Ultimate Vocal Preset Bundle. If you're confused on EQ and compression and saturation, I created a bundle just for you that has over 30 presets that you can load into your own session and use on your vocals. A lot of next week in part two that I'm going to be talking about. Really, these presets hold so much value into everything that I'm doing. Everything I'm doing in Pro Tools, you can do in GarageBand. So go grab that at www.cellardoorsound.co/free presets, and I'll see you next week for part two of Behind the Mix. Peace, guys.